Gibbs is having himself a day. Why not cap it off? This one just shows it all. Look at the push. Look at the push. Laporta, Sewell, Zeitler. Great stuff. After a franchise record 15 wins and a first-round bye, the Lions begin their quest for a Super Bowl against the upset-minded Washington Commanders and the inevitable Rookie of the Year quarterback, Jayden Daniels. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Johnny Gaz. Thank you for returning for another video. Detroit and Washington will square off in the Divisional Round with a trip to the NFC Championship game on the line. This is going to be on Saturday, January 18th. Kickoff is at 8 p.m. on Fox. I'm going to go through my full game preview with a twist. We'll start with our headlines and storylines, and we'll go through my X factors. Then we'll bring in a special guest to talk about the key matchups and the difference in the football game. At the end of the video, I will give my final score and prediction, so stick around. Let's go. These two teams did not meet during the regular season, and the Lions are 0-3 against Washington in their history in the postseason. Back in 1982, the Lions lost to Washington 31-7. Of course, there is that famous 1991 NFC Championship game where the Lions lost 41-10. And the most recent postseason matchup between these two teams back in 1999, where the Lions lost that football game as well, 27-13. The Lions are bringing in their best team in franchise history and the up-and-coming Washington Commanders, bringing together a great divisional round matchup. Let's kick this off with our Lions headlines from this past week. And let's start with the circus that surrounds the Detroit Lions organization currently. Of course, you have very high expectations coming off a 15-2 franchise record season. They had the bye week now to get healthy and get collected before they get into this divisional round matchup. Motor City Dan Campbell has stated that their Lions will remain focused and determined on their ultimate goal, which is a Super Bowl. The Lions are the last remaining NFC North team in these playoffs, as we saw the NFC North struggle in the wild card round. Green Bay lost in Philadelphia, and Minnesota laid an egg in Arizona against Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, and the LA Rams. Coming along with that circus we described for the Lions is all of the interest being shown outside of the organization for coaches and key pieces within the Lions organization, starting with, of course, defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, who interviewed with the New York Jets, the New Orleans Saints, the Jacksonville Jaguars, Chicago Bears, and the Las Vegas Raiders, while Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, interviewed with the Raiders, Bears, Jaguars as well. Now, no offers can be made until the Lions complete their postseason run, so we won't know if there's a pending offer at this time. On top of that, some key pieces within the organization. Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach, interviewed with the Seattle Seahawks for their offensive coordinator opening. Deshae Townsend and Jeff Modkins, assistant coaches for the Lions, interviewed for coaching positions with the San Francisco 49ers. And then Chris Spielman, the special assistant within the Lions organization, did also interview with the New York Jets for their opening general manager position. The NFL All-Pro selections were revealed this past week, and the Lions were well represented for All-Pros this year. Amon-Ra St. Brown earning his second first-team All-Pro wide receiver nod. Penei Sewell, his second under the age of 25. Kirby Joseph, well-deserved after being snubbed from the Pro Bowl, earns his first All-Pro. And then Jack Fox, the punter, also first team. Second team All-Pro was also center Frank Ragnow and kick returner Khalif Raymond. The Lions' divisional round matchup with the Washington Commanders is the hottest ticket currently in the NFL. The average price is higher than all other three divisional round games combined. If you look at average ticket prices, just shows the current popularity of this Lions organization. Ford Field, that crowd, that environment should be rocking on Saturday night when the Lions face off against the Commanders. Let's go through a few injury updates for the Lions. I think the biggest one is the return of David Montgomery, the return of Knuckles to the Sonic and Knuckles. And I think the Lions have really held up well. We'll talk about the Jahmyr Gibbs effectiveness. We know how good he's been since Monty's departure. Now with the return, they can finally get back to this two-headed attack and I think get back to this power rushing game that will hold, I think, pay a lot of dividends here in the playoffs. It'll be interesting to see how the Lions use David Montgomery and what his true effectiveness will be coming off this MCL injury. A few player absences to note from practice, both Tuesday and Wednesday, was Enos Rakestraw, who is still under his 21-day evaluation window coming off of IR and his hamstring injury. And then Kevin Zeitler, who had the hamstring injury in Week 18 against the Vikings, has not practiced this week. We'll have to keep our eyes and ears to the ground on that one and see if the Lions need to bring in one of their backups. We know they have a lot of faith in Christian Mahogany, who could take that place if needed. Also, left tackle Taylor Decker missed practice on Wednesday. However, that isn't anything to worry about. It does appear he has a new addition to his family. We'll wait for more news on that, but it appears it is good news for the Decker family. Let's switch it over to the Washington Commanders headlines from this past week. Of course, they're coming in off of that last-second victory in the wild card round against Tampa Bay. It is Washington's first postseason victory since 2006, 23-20, really on the back of rookie sensation quarterback Jaden Daniels. Looked poised and confident all throughout the game, led them on the game-winning drive, capped by the game-winning field goal, which got them that victory in that wild card round. The Commanders also are not immune to the head coaching searches going on throughout the league. The New York Jets showed interest in the defensive coordinator, Joe Witt Jr., and he interviewed for their head coaching position. Washington also had several second-team All-Pros this year, headlined by wide receiver Terry McLaurin and linebacker Bobby Wagner, but they also added the other linebacker on the Commanders, Frankie Louvu, and their kick returner, Austin Eckler. And just a few injury updates for the Commanders as they come in mostly healthy for this matchup. Linebacker Bobby Wagner has not practiced all week. He's working on an ankle injury. They've also been without the other linebacker, Jordan McGee, and a hamstring. Limited practice, Daron Payne. He was coming off of that pretty serious finger injury in the wild card round. He left for a minute, came back, finished the game. I expect him and Bobby Wagner to play in full in the divisional round. Marshawn Lattimore also hadn't practiced all the previous week, but he did play and made an impact in the wild card round. Also expected to play in the divisional round against the Lions. Now, let me give you some X factors of those players that will be ultimate difference makers in the divisional round matchup between Lions and Commanders. Let's start on the Commanders side. And if we're talking Washington, we got to start with their quarterback, who is a rookie but didn't look like that at all in the wild card round, of course, Jaden Daniels. First rookie quarterback to get a win in the playoffs since 2012. He went 24 of 35 for 268 and 2 touchdowns in that matchup, 68.6%. He also rushed 13 times for 36 yards. His ability to extend plays, but not only use his legs, but also keep his focus downfield. He's confident in making plays, throwing the ball downfield. He uses his weapons. Washington has all the confidence in the world in Jaden Daniels. And Daniels has a lot of weapons to utilize in this Commanders offense. One of them being the second-team All-Pro we just mentioned, wide receiver Terry McLaurin, who on the season has a franchise record 14 touchdowns. And last week in the wild card round, he had a team-high 10 targets. I expect him to be heavily involved against the Lions. Then, of course, on defense, you can't look past Bobby Wagner, also a second-team All-Pro this year, as we mentioned, and we are monitoring his ankle injury, but he is fully expected to play, and he was an X factor and always is for this Washington defense. But he was so in the wild card round, where he led the team with 8 tackles. He had a half a sack, and he had the most important fumble recovery of the game, because that really flipped everything around and gave Washington the leg up in that matchup. So again, we'll have to monitor his effectiveness in this game, but he will play a huge part for this defense in the divisional round game. And on the Lions side, offensively, there's no end to X factors, but you always have to start with the quarterback, Jared Goff, and he is having the most efficient season in Lions history. He has 72.4% completion rate on the season. That is just incredible. 4,629 yards, 37 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, a 111.8 rating. Now, he did have 2 interceptions in that Week 18 matchup against the Vikings, but that's very uncharacteristic this season for Jared Goff. He had the one blip against the Texans, but really after that, he was very efficient. In most cases, coming off a game with interceptions, Jared Goff usually finishes or follows it up with clean performances, and I expect that to be the case here in this divisional round. Now, we talked about the David Montgomery return, but we can't overlook what Jahmyr Gibbs has meant for this team over the last 3 weeks. Now, he didn't earn an All-Pro nod, but I would say he was playing All-Pro football since Montgomery went out with his injury. Over the last 3 games, Jahmyr Gibbs, 64 carries for 365 yards. That's a 5.7-yard average, and he has 6 total TDs over those 3 games. He's really been fantastic, and as much as you feared losing Montgomery in that power running game, Jahmyr Gibbs has been able to step in, be that bell cow back. It even made the Lions offense look a little bit faster, so it will be interesting to see how they work Montgomery back in. Ultimately, it will be effective. This Lions run offense should be on all cylinders against the Commanders. And it seems like in any big game, these playoff games, Amon-Ra St. Brown seems to come up big. And he has his second All-Pro nod at wide receiver, first team this year, well-deserved. Had another fantastic season, 115 catches, 1,263 yards, 12 touchdowns, and a passing TD, which we remember. But he's really been Mr. Everything for the Lions. He is their hardest working player. He does absolutely everything you ask a player to do, especially at the wide receiver position. You just don't get that in today's NFL, and he will be so important to this Lions playoff run. Then for the Lions defensively, let's start in the back end. You got to start with Kerby Joseph, who earned his first All-Pro nod this season, leads the league in interceptions with 9, and has really been that solid force for the Lions, even when everything has been kind of falling apart in front of him on that defense as far as injuries. Obviously, they had the tough matchup against the Bills. Things seem to be falling apart for the Lions defense there towards the end of the season, but they were really able to round back into form. A lot of that due to the play of Kerby Joseph. Him combined with Brian Branch and that safety duo, I believe, will be big X factors in this divisional round. Along with that, you had the returning Alex Anzalone in Week 18, which I thought made the ultimate difference for the Lions defense. The linebacking crew just looked leaps and bounds different compared to the week before. With him being healthy, he played almost every defensive snap in that Week 18 game. He came out of it unfazed, and I expect him to be fully ready to go with a week off now going into this divisional round. Again, the Lions defense will be as healthy as they possibly can be with the players that are available to them going into this matchup with the Commanders. It should be a great game. All right, now let's dive into our key matchups in Lions Commanders for our divisional round. And to do so, we're going to bring in a special guest. You know him, you love him. He is my first authority on everything Lions football for breaking news and updates. Let's bring him in here, Dan with Lions Talk Live. Dan, how you doing today, buddy? Thanks for coming on board.
No problem. Thanks for having me, man. It's a great day to be a Lions fan. Everybody's getting pumped up and ready. You even got NFL.com to put out their weekly preview of all the matchups, and hey, I'm going to have to check that out after this.
Absolutely, man. What a fun wild card weekend it was, right? Any big surprises on your end? What was the big one on your side?
You know, as far as surprises, I thought it'd be more competitive between the Rams and the Vikings. Yeah. But again, I know I talked about this on my show earlier. To me, as a coach, you always think that somebody's going to, once they have a problem exposed, like I thought Aaron Glenn kind of exposed with the Vikings, yes, that Kevin O'Connell would make some adjustments. The fact that didn't happen, I'm going to put a lot of the blame, some of it on Sam Darnold, but a lot of it on your offensive coordinator, your head coach, Kevin O'Connell. You got to put your players in a position to succeed. I don't feel like he did that last night.
I'm with you. Yeah, that was a shocking result, but that whole playing Detroit and getting that loss and then trying to go on the next week, it really seems to hold true. But I'm with you 100%. So let's dive into Lions and Commanders. Obviously, you're talking divisional round. These teams have kind of a storied history as far as Lions versus not only the Commanders but the Redskins and that history there. Right. But diving into this particular matchup, I think what you can't get away from is obviously Jaden Daniels, and I think that's the biggest thing and will be the key point to this matchup. So what in your mind, Dan, how do the Lions and the defense specifically, how do they hold down Jaden Daniels?
Well, Daniels, obviously he's a rookie quarterback, but he's far enough in the season now where he's not really a rookie anymore. They've got some real weapons. I mean, they've got a real good offense. It's going to be a challenge to keep him contained and to keep some of the receivers at bay, I think Aaron Glenn's got to just keep doing what he's been doing all season. We all get he loves playing man-to-man. He loves sending an extra rusher. He likes to disguise coverages a little bit more, something he maybe didn't do the first, say, 70% of the season, but maybe just out of necessity, he's done a lot more. In our last game against Minnesota, I thought he did a phenomenal job. It's my anticipation you're going to see probably Iffy, Brian Branch, amongst others. Turner's probably going to be used either in a delayed blitz situation or backside robber blitz situation where it looks like somebody's guarding somebody in the slot, but they're actually going to be given a free release to go after the quarterback. I think if you can do that and continue to control the ground game from opposing teams, limit them to 2-3 yards of carry, put more pressure on Jaden Daniels, then that's going to really free up this defense to be even more aggressive. They're great man-to-man coverage, one of the best in the leagues. We all get their best in the NFL in third down, even with all the injuries. Getting people off the field on third down is now a strength of the Lions, and I think you're going to see that trend continue.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's going to be, he is, I'm with you 100%. Is like, he's not a rookie quarterback anymore. I think you've had enough of the season now, and you've seen, he had comebacks. I think the Philly win, that to me was a huge turning point for me to say, okay, he's not just your normal rookie. I mean, to go and get that win against Philly among many others. And they certainly are a team that seems to know how to come back. They seem to know how to hang in games. So I think even if the Lions can get ahead a little bit, I think there's always a shot here. They always say you don't know what you don't know, and he might be one of those guys here that as a rookie might be able to make some things happen. So let's move outside of that key matchup there, the Lions defense versus Jaden Daniels. Are there any other matchups that you personally are looking forward to or might be keys here for a victory for the Lions?
Absolutely. I mean, even though most people would say across the NFL that Washington, their run defense is kind of porous, I look at their front four at least, and I actually think they're pretty decent. I get Payne's questionable; he's a little beat up, etc. But between Allen, Armstrong, Farrell, etc., and some of their other support staff in that front seven, I actually think it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge than most people are anticipating with the Lions' run game. Then you add in the factor that Dave Montgomery, he's going to come back. All signs point towards him returning this week. How effective is he going to be? If the Lions really can establish control over that Washington front, the front seven, the front four, however you want to term it, and to get that ground game going, now what's Jared Goff's strength? Play action pass. I think he's going to true up that Washington secondary if we can establish a run. But we've said that before with other teams this season where they send a sixth guy or sometimes seventh guy to shoot run gaps and responsibilities. We haven't always handled that the best. If we clean that up, if maybe Graham Glasgow really is healthy along with Kevin Zettler, and we do a better job with that, now I feel like, instead of being a tighter game in the second half, maybe we have the opportunity to really kind of expand that lead and put some real pressure distance between us and the Commanders.
Yeah, I'm with you there. But how about this? So I was looking up some stats here before we got started. Washington is 30th in yards per game and 30th in yards per carry. And you got to think that bodes, it just talks to exactly what you just said, is the fact that if they can't hold down our run game, I think everything else plays off of it. You mentioned the play action and Jared Goff just being as efficient as he's been. I think if they put themselves in that position where they're able to power run game, man, everything else opens up. So I'm with you 100%. Let's get into some injuries side. You mentioned the Zeitler thing, and if for some reason he can't go in this matchup, do you have kind of a feel for how they would adjust? Do they bring in, is it Coyote Owasika, or they go to Mahogany? What do you think they do to adjust if they need to make up something on the offensive line?
If it's me, and they ain't asking me, it'd be Mahogany. I think that dude's a monster. I think he's going to be a starter next year. Watching him, and again, it's limited basis. You haven't seen him a ton, but when we've seen him out there, he moves people. I mean, he moves significantly. When he's in the run game and he gets both hands in leverage and establishes himself on somebody, they're not blocking him. There's no one person in the NFL I've seen so far, and again, a limited basis, that controls him at the line of scrimmage. We were talking about a minute ago about controlling the run game, having that set up to play action. I think he'd come in. Zeitler, in my opinion, he's been the number 1 or 2 guard in the NFL. I was surprised he didn't get some all-pro run, being as that may. Losing him would be significant, but if you can't get him out there, I'd say, man, put him in there and wait and see what happens.
Man, what a different world we live in, man. We were talking 5, 6, 7 years ago. We wouldn't have ever been in a position where we could talk about a backup offensive lineman, but I love it. I can't get enough of it. So let's look at the overall picture, right? We talked about the key matchups, some of the big things we're going to look out for. In your opinion, Dan, what do you think is the ultimate difference in this game? Lions, Commanders, divisional round. What makes that difference?
Aaron Glenn, red zone coverage. So what do I mean by that? Go back to the last few games we've had, and we all get beat up and everything, Detroit Lions, but especially pay attention to some of the changes he made against the 49ers and then definitely against the Vikings. Anytime the other team got within, say, 10 yards of the goal line, he started showing man-to-man, but then shooting gaps where guys were actually playing zone, and you could see the confusion it caused to the three quarterbacks that they faced in that time because Brock Purdy got hurt. I don't remember the backup's name, but you could see some of that. I just think Daniels, yes, he can scramble, he can get out of the pocket, but if you can contain that and a young quarterback, especially if he gets down 7, 10, 14 points, might just, try to force some passes into coverage. We all get how great Brian Branch, Ife Melifanu, Kirby Joseph, amongst other guys, Alex Anzalone in coverage are, and that's where I think the Lions can maybe really turn the tide of battle, and a close game really gets shut out, becomes a massive win for the Lions. I think that's probably where the game ultimately is going to be decided.
Very good. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that side. Do you have any feeling on what may happen in the other matchup, the other divisional round matchup, and who the Lions might be looking ahead for? Fingers crossed.
As much as I hate saying it, I think it's going to happen. I think I talked about it before the playoffs started. I do think it's going to be Detroit versus LA in the NFC title game. I look at Philadelphia, their strengths, and not that they can't impose their will. I get these two teams played. The Rams didn't do a great job stopping the run. Assuming they can do that this time, and I do think Stafford, being the veteran quarterback, he's got some healthier receivers. He's got a healthier offensive line. If they can give him 2.5 seconds per drop back, I think he's going to chew up a lot of that secondary in Philadelphia. I think that you're going to get a close win.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that a week from now we are having that exact conversation, and we can be talking about an NFC Championship game. Dan, I really appreciate it, man. Again, I'll just say it first. I go to your channel every single morning to get my Lions news and updates. So I appreciate what you do for YouTube and the Lions community and everything else. Just shout yourself out real quick. Tell everybody where they can find you and all that great information.
Hey, well, I want to say the same to you. I mean, Johnny, I'm driving the car, I'm doing work, whatever, going coaching or showing a house or whatever I'm doing. I listen to you a ton, man. You do a great job of stuff. Guys, if you haven't yet subscribed to him, go ahead and do that. Hit the thumbs up button. If you want to come over and be a part of the Do Crew, we're on 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to roughly 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come on over, be a part of the conversation, talk some Lions, whatever the topic is of the day. And yes, we do drop some breaking news videos. So come on over to Lions Talk Live.
I appreciate it, Dan. Yes, absolutely. Definitely have to check out Lions Talk Live. And again, I appreciate you coming on board, Dan. Hopefully we can get together real soon. Have a fantastic week ahead, and go Lions, buddy.
We'll see you soon.
The line for this game, according to ESPN Bet, has moved to Lions -10, and the over-under is set at 55.5 points. You heard us talk about the key matchups, containing Jaden Daniels. The Lions establishing that power run game early and often. And I agree with Dan. The ultimate difference in this game is Aaron Glenn and that Lions defense. The man-to-man heavy blitz scheme that works so well against the Vikings in Week 18, I think will hold true against the Commanders. And you can't look past the home field advantage that is Ford Field. The environment that the Washington Commanders will find themselves in will be much different than what they faced in that wild card round. I have the Lions winning this game 34-24 and earning a berth to the NFC Championship game for the second year in a row. That's going to do it for my divisional round preview, Lions and Commanders. Comment down below, how do the Lions contain rookie quarterback sensation Jaden Daniels, and what will the final score be in this matchup? Thank you guys so much for your time. If you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gas Sports, please hit that like button. It's the best free way to help out the channel. I'd also love it if you consider subscribing. We're on the road to 3,000 now, thanks to you guys. And if you hit that notify bell, you won't miss any future videos. I have a membership option available as well. It's where I do my live game play-by-play reactions, tier list, a ton of other fun stuff. But there's always free content here for you all the time. more than anything else, take care of yourself and that mental health. That's more important than anything, and I want to make sure you come back and see me on future videos. Also, make sure to go check out Dan on Lions Talk Live on YouTube. Thank you so much, Dan, for coming on the show. He does so much good stuff surrounding Lions content every single morning. He is my authority for breaking news and updates on Detroit Lions football. Thank you so much again. Have a fantastic weekend ahead. Go Lions.